In this unit, we're going to study trigonometry. This lesson is about another way of labeling triangles to help us prepare to work with the primary trig ratios. Okay, in this lesson here, we're going to really start to get into kind of the meat and potatoes of trigonometry here. But we're going to take kind of a small step in this direction here because we want to make sure that you understand how we're going to adjust the labeling just a little bit here. Okay, we're going to add kind of one other layer to the labeling here. So labeling triangles for the primary trigonometric ratios. So we're getting ourselves geared up to start working with what we really call trigonometric functions here, things that we use in the calculator. So if you know two side lengths and you want to know a third side length, you identify the hypotenuse and the legs and use the Pythagorean theorem. So the Pythagorean theorem, I should say. And that's fine. We've been doing that with we did that with the last lesson that we looked through. It's something that you've probably worked on before in the past, and it works great if there's no other information about the triangle given. But as soon as an angle is given, well, now we've got a little bit more information that we can play with a little bit here, and we can actually approach the question in a slightly different way. And so we're going to label our triangle here slightly differently, or at least we're going to add one more layer of labeling to it so that we can use a different set of rules to find the things that we don't know. Because now it's not just the sides that we might be looking for, it might be those unknown angles. That's why we just say measures here, because that measure here could be a side, or now it could also be an angle. Okay, so there's a couple of things we might be looking for here. So there will be one angle either given or unknown. In other words, there's going to be an angle that is going to be the focal point of our attention. It might be an angle that we're given in the problem, or it might be an angle that we're looking for in the problem, but there's going to be an angle in the triangle that deserves our specific attention. Okay? And as soon as you identify that angle, that one angle, then we've got another way of looking at the sides of the triangle. So we're going to label each triangle with respect to that angle. That's going to be our reference angle in the triangle here. Okay? Now, here's how this works. One of the sides is going to be the hypotenuse, and quite honestly, that hasn't changed. The hypotenuse is going to be the hypotenuse. It's going to be the side opposite the right angle. It will be the longest side in the right angle triangle. But now we've got two other labels that we can give here, we can use. We're going to call a side opposite if it's the side that's opposite the angle that we're interested in, our reference angle. So this is going to be the side, this is going to be the side opposite or across from the given or indicated angle. So if you're using the lowercase, uppercase, lowercase lettering, this would be the one with the lowercase letter. Okay. Imagine you are standing at the angle looking across the triangle. The far side is the one opposite you. So another way of thinking about it here is, for example, this angle right here. To make this angle, I'm using that side and this side. The side that I'm not using to build this angle, this is the opposite. Okay, it's the one on the other side of the triangle not being used to create it. But the adjacent side means beside. Okay, it's adjacent to, it's next to. This is the side that is beside the given or indicated angle, but it's not the hypotenuse. Remember, the hypotenuse is the longest side in the right angle triangle. That's going to stay here, so it's the other one here. This is the trickiest one to remember. It may be easier to remember to find the hypotenuse and the opposite, and then the one that's left is going to be the adjacent. So going back to our problem right here, if this is the angle, that's our reference angle. This is the one that's important. This is going to be the hypotenuse because it's the longest side. The one on the other side of the triangle is going to be the opposite. And then this right here is going to be the adjacent. It's going to be the other side that we're using to create that angle. Okay? So yeah, the hypotenuse isn't a new introduction here, but this idea of opposite and adjacent to that angle, or to the given angle here, that's going to be significant here. So again, if I drew this out here, let's say our reference angle was this one up here. Again, this is still the hypotenuse because it's opposite the 90 degrees. But in this case now, if this is the angle, and these are the two sides that make it up, This one down here is now the opposite, and this one right here is now going to be the adjacent. These labels that we're giving, opposite and adjacent, depend on the angle that's the reference angle, the one that is the focal point in the problem. Okay, so this labeling is a response to our identification of that reference angle. I hope that makes sense. Let's take a look at some examples to kind of fortify this for you. Okay, so for this problem, and our focal point is really just going to be in labeling here, all we're going to do is label the triangles with hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent with respect to the angle. Okay? So here we go. Now, for each of these, I'll tell you what I'm going to do to start off with. For each of these triangles here, I'm going to quickly identify the hypotenuse. So there's the right angle, opposite it, hypotenuse. Here's the right angle, opposite is the hypotenuse. Here's the right angle, opposite is the hypotenuse. Here's the right angle, opposite. Now there's already a label there. It's called P, but this is going to be the hypotenuse. Here's the right angle. Again, I got a number there, but it doesn't matter. That's the hypotenuse. And over here, here's the right angle. Opposite it, this is going to be the hypotenuse. Okay, so now we're going to look for opposite and adjacent. And remember, this is always with respect to the angle that is the focal point of the question. So right here, I am giving you that this is 25 degrees. This is the focal point. So on the other side of the triangle is going to be the opposite. And then next to it is going to be the adjacent. Okay? So when I call this the opposite side, it's because I'm identifying that it's opposite the specific angle that I'm given. This one is adjacent to the specific angle. Here's the 63. This is the angle that's important because it's given to me. The side opposite it over here. And then the other side that makes it up together with the hypotenuse, this is going to be the adjacent side. Now in this triangle right here, I've got an X in the position of that angle, which means I don't know what that angle is, but I'm looking for it. I'm interested in it. So even if I don't know it, as long as I identify that angle as being a point of interest or something that I'm looking for, that still makes that the reference angle, in which case the side opposite it, okay, we're going to call O, and then this is the adjacent side, we're going to call that A. And again, you'll know that you've done it right here when H and A are the two sides that make up the angle. Now here, I've got the 52 degrees. I'm giving that to you. So the side opposite it, 7 is going to be equal to the opposite side. And then the leftover side will be the adjacent. Here, again, I don't know what the angle is. We're calling it Z, but that's okay. That doesn't matter. I'm still drawing our attention to that angle. That means that over here, this is going to be the opposite side. And this side right here, this 4, the side with the length of 4, that's going to be our adjacent. And now finally over here, this angle that's given to me, this 37 degrees. On the other side of the triangle, the opposite side of the triangle, that's the unknown that I'm looking for, but this is the opposite. Okay? So, and I don't want you to get confused by the fact that like X is now equal to O. What I'm saying here is this unknown side that I'm looking for is opposite. So by saying it like that, I'm communicating that the side that I'm looking for is opposite the angle that I'm given. And then this 11 here is going to be adjacent to the angle that I'm given. So the ideas of opposite and adjacent are really about the position of the side with respect to the angle. I hope that makes sense. I know it can be kind of a tricky concept, and this is a place where some students get a little bit turned around with with trigonometry here. So this is well worth taking some time to make sure that the labeling makes sense. So with the exercises that you'd get in association with this assignment here, it's good to spend some time in going through those and making sure that you're really comfortable with this kind of labeling.